Welcome in once again to 444's most accurate podcast. I am Matt Okada. It is a Monday after the start of football, technically, because we had preseason football last Thursday and we have more coming this week. John, how excited are you about the preseason?
I don't get too excited about the preseason. So I would say probably a 5 out of 10. I mean, we're getting close
that's not bad.
Real football.
Honestly, that's not bad. Hopefully you are a little more excited, and I'm a little more excited for our guest today. I think technically we hold the name the most accurate podcast, but if there was a second most accurate podcast outside of 444, it might be the Fantasy Footballers. I'm not sure. Check the tape. If true, we have Mike Wright from the Fantasy Footballers here today. Mike, do you agree?
I'm a little upset you stole my thunder. I had a huge riff where I was going to say about how you guys have been over here calling it the most accurate podcast, but it is now because I'm on the show. But no, I mean you guys do fantastic work. I'm excited to be here with, two long lost friends. You know, I've had great respect for both of you. We got my buddy JP and then Matt
Okada.
Okay, never mind that part. No, what's up, boys? I'm happy to be here. You guys I consider to be great industry friends, and I'm excited to do a mock draft.
Yeah, we got a half PPR mock draft today. Gonna probably aim for 12 rounds, but we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll, soliloquize. Is that a word? On our picks for way too long and end up getting through 8 rounds, but hopefully not. Before we get into that, Mike, just give us a little background on what you guys are doing over at the Ballers. There's a lot going on. You and the Ballers, what's up?
Sure. So, I mean, you said it. It's August. It is football time. So we are back to 5 shows a week. Love being a commuter podcast for people. You know, our Ultimate Draft Kit is available. It's still getting updated. It is at least the second most accurate product out there. At least. And just like that's the big key things, man. So thefantasyfootballers.com if you want any of my information.
Sweet. And at FF Hitman.
Yes.
On the Twitter, as we're still calling it over here.
Which who's not? I mean, it turns into a big joke. We're like Twitter X. What is Twitter? You guys can take most accurate. That's fine, but I will take best Twitter follow due to my incredible substance of talking about things like I don't understand people who like al dente noodles.
What? Al dente is the only right way to do noodles.
No, what? No, you're crunchy noodle man?
Oh, no.
We're starting this off bad. Oh, no. All right, we'll get to the noodle takes after the draft. Okay, well, thanks for being on, and don't snipe my picks.
Well, we're far away, so
yeah, we should be okay. Okay, let's get into this. Boom. Looks like we have Mike at the 103, John at the 107, and I'm at the 111. So we are decently spread out. Hopefully that means we won't snipe each other all that much. I'm going to kick it off. Here we go. Ready or not?
Yeah.
It cannot be undone.
2 running backs, 2 receivers, and a flex. Half PPR.
Yep.
Right? Okay.
Yes, that is correct. All right. Christian McCaffrey and Justin Jefferson off the board at 101 and 102. That is aggressive. Interesting for Jefferson to go that high.
Team 2, a Vikings fan.
Yeah, just a little bit of variance built in there. Have not seen that with all the mocks we've been doing. So at the 103, I'm up. It's the question of do I take who is my number 1 wide receiver, which I'm on Tyreek Hill at number 1. Where do you guys have? Are you guys CeeDee Lamb group?
Yeah,
where are you?
Lamb Hill 1-2 for me.
Okay, so you got Hill at number 2?
Yeah.
All right.
It's the same for me, Lamb Hill, but it's really close.
So it's deciding between those 2 guys, or I'm sorry, for Tyreek Hill for me, or do I want the building block of Breece Hall or Bijan Robinson? ADP be darned,
Take it down to the wire.
Oh, wait. Oh, it's that fast? Fine, I'll take Tyreek Hill.
Hold on. Hold on. There's supposed to be no timer.
Yeah.
There's a minute timer.
What kind of clown show podcast are we on?
Listen.
On my show, I have unlimited time.
I am no Andy. Okay. Did you want Tyreek Hill or do we need to run it back?
It's fine. I don't know where I
Oh,
would have
gosh.
ended up, but I panic picked Tyreek Hill. So it's too late, man. It's locked in.
The clock is now dead. We've killed the clock.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to use the full minute.
Okay, good. That's good too. After Tyreek, Bijan did go next. So whoever
Where are
was
you
sitting
at?
at
Where
tier
are you,
4,
Bijan or Brees?
Bijan for me.
I'm Brees.
Ooh,
After
we're split.
McCaffrey, yeah.
So you guys got to fight later.
I'm going to take him right now, Brees Hall.
Okay. After Bijan, it was CD and Jamar Chase, not too surprising. And then John takes Brees Hall. So both of the elite running backs are off the board. Then it's Amon-Ra St. Brown and A.J. Brown, the Browns back-to-back, unsurprising. And Jahmyr Gibbs at pick 10, which is unfortunate because I probably would have gone that direction if he was not taken. That leaves me with a choice for me between Garrett Wilson or one of the running backs. Wilson is my next best wide receiver here. I've talked a good amount so far this offseason about how much I expect Aaron Rodgers to elevate him, and I expect Aaron Rodgers to be maybe not as good as his MVP seasons, but pretty close to it. I think he's being massively overlooked. Otherwise, it's going running back here and taking Taylor or Barkley, and really being here at the turn. The main question is what's going to be there when it gets back to me, and what would I like more? Ooh, I like the receivers better. So I'm actually going to take a running back here, and I'm going to go.
I'm sorry,
not
sir.
sure if
You've taken longer than a minute. Your pick is void.
I'm not sure if this is technically out of the norm, but I'm going to take Saquon over Jonathan Taylor. Ooh, okay. Garrett Wilson did go next, so I don't get him on the way back. It was Garrett Wilson and Jonathan Taylor at the turn.
You mess around and you find out, bro.
Yeah, I do. But the good news is the wide receiver I really wanted, if Wilson was not there, and the one I expected to get because I figured Wilson would go, is still here, and that is Marvin Harrison Jr. Shout out Cardinals fans in the chat.
Yes. Yeah.
I think he's going to be incredible.
I want to hear, John, do people ever call you JP?
Yeah.
Okay, because it wants to come out of me, and I don't want to offend you by calling you JP. If you're like, no, I don't do that.
Oh, not offended at all. You can call me JP all day if you want.
Then all day it shall be.
Cool.
What is your take of this? Is the highest ADP rookie we've ever seen, and he's never obviously he's a rookie, so he's never taken a snap of football. Where Matt made his decision, are you comfortable taking Marvin there, coming hot off the edge?
Yeah, early second, totally fine with that, especially if you're doing either a wide receiver start or a hero RB plan. Harrison is a fantastic prospect, one of the best wide receiver prospects to come out in quite some time. Landed in a really good spot with a bunch of targets available, with a good quarterback. Team's probably going to be bad. I think it's 6.5 wins, so they're going to have to throw the ball probably more than they'd like. I think he's just in a great spot, and I agree with it. That pick over Nakua, whose splits with Cooper Kupp are not as eye-popping as they were without Kupp.
Sure.
And Devontae Adams, obviously has a quarterback issue that Harrison wouldn't. So I'm totally fine with that pick.
Okay.
After Harrison went Puka Nakua, who I fully agree is being a little overvalued with the return of Cooper Kupp, I believe at full health, and then Devontae Adams, questions at quarterback, and then Kyron Williams. And then it's back to you, John. You were on the clock.
Yeah, and I think I'm just gonna. I'm debating Mr. Sam Laporta here, so I'll just go ahead and take him. I'm gonna
go
tight end.
Oh, okay. There's been a lot. I feel like there's been a rising feeling in the fantasy industry that Laporta's going a little too high. Clearly, you disagree
with that bus, brother.
Okay, so Mike disagrees with the pick here, but John, you feel pretty confident about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was tight end 1 as a rookie. He's only going to get better in his second year. I think the distance between him and the next group of tight ends is a little bit bigger. And this is a position where I love having a weapon like him. And nothing's really changed in that offense. So I think the value's there.
All right. I like it.
That's wild. This is fun because I get, another opinion that I respect of, because I'm so on the opposite end of not saying Laporta isn't great or will finish. great chance to finish as the number one guy. But I feel like McBride and Travis Kelce, Travis Kelce in a half-point scoring format, like people just remember the end.
Yep.
Which I get it. If you had Kelce and he let you down in the playoffs, that's a pretty brutal way to go out. But I mean, he was tied with Laporta in points per game, and that was including a terrible Travis Kelce at the end of the year. So for me, it's like I think people are underrating Kelce, and the same with Andrews. So that's the only reason I feel like the ADP is a little bit high, because those other guys are so much lower. But if you want Laporta, you got to go get him.
I mean, I think
Yeah, I think
my plan would be, if I can, to get Andrews in the 4th, and if I can't do that, then I'm going to be pulling the trigger on Laporta a little earlier than people would expect. Yeah,
and you feel like
Andrews,
where you are, that's not you're not.
Yeah, I'm fine.
For Andrews.
Yeah, I mean, given who else was available, I didn't want to start running back. That's the other thing.
That's
so
very fair.
I might have grabbed Achan or Henry if I had decided to go running back. I wanted to kind of make this interesting. So my favorite player at any other position is Laporta here, and I do agree that there's some value later. If I could get Andrews in the 4th, I think that's a better value than Laporta in the 2nd or near the 2-3 turn. But I love Laporta this year.
All right, so I'm on the clock. My one regret now of being forced into Tyreek Hill against my will by an authoritarian podcast host is like Nico Collins and Jalen Waddle. Those are my favorite 3rd-round wide receivers. Like my chips are so far in on both of them that I would love to. Like, if I had Bijan here, this would be an easy. I'm going to play the ADP. Nico's higher. I'll take him, and then hopefully get Jalen Waddle on the swing back. But I don't know if my confidence is at a point where I need to build a Dolphins super stack here with both Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So I'm going to pivot from that. Looking at the running backs, while there's still good players there, it's a range where I'm like, meh. They're all just kind of clumped and not really separating each other. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to reach down the ADP barrel, and I'm going to take Nico early.
Okay, I'm really glad you did that. I was going to ask you to hit on Nico, whether or not you picked him. We have, in the few weeks of this podcast so far this offseason, trashed Nico Collins this early.
Get out of here.
Yeah, the targets are tough.
Do you not have eyes?
With all
no,
those
he's
good
great.
receivers.
He's great.
So give me your case.
The case is just projecting that he will be the number one between him and the other two guys.
How many targets do you have him for?
I can let me see if I can pull that up.
Roughly even.
Yeah. Pulling up Houston. I got him down at. I have him at a 23% target share. So it's not like an outrageous one, but I think that the efficiency of the yards per reception comes down. I have that being projected that way. But it's still really healthy. I mean, like, go back, we just watched, again, every snap or whatever, every target for Nico. And the guy it's just chunk play after chunk play. And he's been a wide receiver that for me has always flashed and popped up but he's been buried in mediocrity of just horrible quarterback play. So it's one of those like, well, maybe my eyes have deceived me, but it was a comp, at least for our show. It's like Robert Woods. When Robert Woods was trapped in Buffalo, we're watching him going, no, that's a good player. Mm-hmm. And then he gets a good situation, and hey, look who's really good at football. It's Robert Woods. So that's how I feel about Nico. The money that they extended him. They did not need to, but they gave him the bag. I like following the team actions. And Stephon Diggs is at that, not only an age cliff that I don't love. I mean, I just drafted old man Tyreek, but Stephon Diggs, the age cliff and a season cliff where it's like he's at the time of his career where it makes sense for things to slow down. And I'm enamored with Nico and those huge plays. And I think they will just continue to be unleashed.
I mean, listen, sometimes talent wins out.
Where do you have Dell and where do you have Diggs? I'm curious.
I have Nico at wide receiver 8. I got Dell all the way up at 13. Wow. And then Stephon Diggs is buried for me.
Okay. Well, we haven't gotten to him. So
what
maybe
does buried mean?
32.
Okay, I have him at 28.
Okay.
So okay.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, Barry, like compared to ADP.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
if you saw my ranking at ADP, you're like one of those is going to be very wrong.
Okay. I am going to be very curious to see what you have to say about CJ Stroud if those are your rankings on Nico and Tank. But I want
Hell, yeah.
to
They don't
in
jive,
case
brother.
yeah,
They do not jive.
Okay,
You
good to know.
you want me to wait until he's selected, or what do you want?
Yeah,
me to do?
no. We'll wait just in
Okay.
case. I mean, maybe we'll see.
Okay.
Just as a further update, ETN, Achan, Derrick Henry, and Josh Jacobs have all gone off the board since John's pick around Mike's, and then Drake London and Chris Olave were double tapped by Team One at the turn. So it is back to you on the clock, Mike.
So if looking at the wide receiver position, Debo is very intriguing to me. Again, Jalen Waddle, had I not taken Tyreek Hill, would have been that's an automatic pick for me. I really spent the offseason thinking Brandon Ayuk will be a San Francisco 49er. The recent news has me thinking maybe that is not the case. I still do lean that he'll end up on the 49ers. So trying to get ahead of the curve, but I'm not going to get that far into the news by saying take Debo. I'm going to take Isaiah Pacheco, who I think has a chance to be a league-winning running back of the course of last year, getting more and more into the game, more relied upon, heavier snaps, heavier utilization, and heavier targets as well. And at least for now, Jerick McKinnon is not on that team. Clyde seems to be buried behind Prince at this point. So, like, Pacheco being an actual workhorse, I think, is in the range of outcomes this year.
Well, in the mindsets of, I believe, John and I both, I think Isaiah Pacheco redeems the Nico Collins pick, because I absolutely love Pacheco this year. I believe John's in as well. Right after Pacheco went Travis Kelce, so there's that second tight end. And then Deebo Samuel, who you mentioned, and Stephon Diggs, who goes a lot earlier than wide receiver 28 or 32 here in this draft. And then it's back to you, John.
I want to comment on a couple things. I don't hate the Nico Collins pick there. I think he's a fantastic talent, and this could work out for Mike in this mock draft that we're not going to play out. But the reason I asked is because, doing full projections, it's tough to project these three receivers to where they're going in ADP. And so I've got Nico at 20, and I feel a little low on him. I think I might actually take him a little bit earlier than that, but he's only 4 or 5 points out of the wide receiver 16 spot. I've got Dell at 25, and I've got Diggs at 28. So, that puts CJ Stroud at QB 5. Do you have him higher than that, Mike?
No, I actually have. Okay. I have him much lower than that.
Oh, all right. Is this off of full projections?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. I'd be interested.
This is where the does not jive comes in. We have to wait.
Yeah, I'm not like question. I just when you do the full projections, it's just hard sometimes with these guys who are getting drafted so high, and there's a group of receivers, and it just can't make the numbers add up without giving the quarterback a shit ton of, a lot of points.
Is this the kind of podcast I'm on?
We're allowed one per podcast. I think it's PG-13 rules. Is that how it goes?
I don't know. Yeah, we might need to edit that out. Pacheco, I think, was a great pick. Connor and Allen and I are actually in a main event draft together, and he woke up after being out all night doing sake bombs and at karaoke clubs in Chicago. And I had to pick because we were on the clock, and I was like, well, I'm going to take Pacheco. And the reason I liked him, you look down the stretch there, he played 70% more of the snaps in the playoffs. He had 23.3 touches for 93 yards and 1.5 touchdowns in 4 postseason games. So I'm just wondering, the 12th highest per game average during the season. So I think we saw, his upside there in the playoffs. And if he gets that sort of workload, even if he gets close to 20, then he's being underdrafted right now as the RB12 or RB13 off the board. So I like that pick a lot. And I'm going to take my next guy up is Brandon Ayuk. And I'm really worried that by making this pick, he's going to get traded to the Steelers with that donkey offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, who's not going to use him correctly, but we're going to go ahead and grab Ayuk there.
Ayuk is my favorite of this clump of wide receivers, so I really like that pick. After you went Lamar and then Jalen Waddle and Mike Evans, which leaves one, maybe two of the really good wide receivers in this range before kind of what I see as a drop off. I do not like the running backs here. I could take a quarterback in Jalen Hurts or Patrick Mahomes. Interesting, by the way, that Lamar went before both of them. I think that's a little
Yep.
against ADP. But I'm going to take a receiver here, and I'm going to take the guy that I've recently been rising on. It's or should I wait?
Is this funny?
No.
Do it,
I'm
you
going to take
coward.
him now. I'm going to take him now just in case. I don't want to get the snipe. It's going to be Cooper Kupp.
Oh, yeah.
I
That's
think
fine.
Cooper Kupp is going to be back in force. We heard some news recently that he feels back to 100%. He has dealt with injuries throughout both of the last two seasons, and even with that, even with the rise of Puka Nacua on a per game basis, he was really good last year. I think he's going to be fully healthy. Matthew Stafford obviously absolutely loves him, and I think that everybody is on the Puka train and has forgotten about what Cooper Kupp can be at full health. So he's going to be my wide receiver too. Patrick Mahomes and Devontae Smith win at the turn. One of you give me your Cooper Kupp feedback while I figure out what the heck to do here.
Sure. I'll jump in. And it's we've spent on the footballers like the last couple weeks talking about the disparity has been multiple rounds between Puka and Cooper Kupp. And it's like, will we get to the end of the year and just be like, oh, yeah, Cooper Kupp is really, really good at football, and he has a connection with his quarterback, and he's still there. Like, we're in fantasy football, we can be a little too often distracted by the new shiny thing and kind of forget greatness. I mean, this happens like in Dynasty all the time.
Yep.
It's always give me the young guys. I need this amount of years. Like, well, how about 2 elite years from an old guy like who is still going to produce? So I'm in agreement here of Cooper Kupp there. Over the weekend I made the change where my projection wise I had Puka a decent a bit ahead of Cooper Kupp, and that gap has closed pretty dramatically now to the point where Puka's ADP doesn't make sense for my projection, and Cooper Kupp is being underdrafted.
Yep. Sweet. All right, I've decided what to do. I don't want to take a quarterback this early. Also, Patrick Mahomes winning the turn. I prefer him to Jalen Hurts this year. I do not like these running backs. This is one of the worst parts of the draft, in my opinion, for running back. It's like Rashad White or James
take him.
Cook. Nope. I'm going to pass on that. So I could reach for a tight end, but I'm not going to. What instead I'm going to do is take another wide receiver, take 3 in my first 4 picks. And I'm going to take DK Metcalf. Now, Mike, I believe that one of you 3 ballers is obsessed with DK Metcalf, and
Jason.
the other ones are not. Okay, that's what I thought.
It's not obsessed. It's just Jason is pretty hot and bothered for DK this year.
Yeah. He's been a wide receiver 1, like 4 straight seasons. Not much has changed there. I expect it to be the case again, and he's not being drafted as 1. I don't really fully understand why. And he's my wide receiver 3. So I'm going to have him in my flex, putting up huge weeks every now and then. I feel pretty good about that. After Metcalf goes Jalen Hurts. So that's the 4 super elite quarterbacks off the board. And then DJ Moore, who I was also considering with my pick, and James Cook. And then it's back to you, John.
I was going to take Metcalf if you had made it to me here. I have him at wide receiver 15, so I like that pick quite a bit. I think why are you guys down on Rashad White?
Oh, because it's gross, and you need to don't watch the don't watch the game. Don't look at how inefficient it is. Only look at the fantasy points at the end. That's all you can look at.
Yeah. You know, his situation is interesting because Bucky Irving apparently is terrible at pass protection. So I just don't know if he's going to play a lot. So we might see another huge workload for Rashad White. But with that said, I wasn't looking to draft him here. I want to draft a receiver, and I'm kind of happy that DJ Moore got drafted. I'd be kind of uncomfortable with him here, even though I've got him ranked a bit higher than the guy I'm going to take, which is Michael Pittman.
Okay. Now, I've been a little down on Pittman just because what we saw from him last year with Anthony Richardson was not nearly as good as what we saw with Gardner Minshew. Do you feel pretty confident in Richardson's arm?
In those 2 games,
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, it was
listen,
a-
they
drawn
were
a
2
lot of
games.
conclusions.
Yeah, it's a small sample size, I think. You can draw the fact that Richardson's, he only averaged, I think, let's see, 6 points.
Really, it was the targets.
Well,
Week one was great.
Yeah,
Mhm.
8 for 97 and a touchdown, 11 targets, and then 1 for 15 and 5 targets in those 2 contests. He did target Pittman on 26% of his pass attempts. Only averaged 6.46 yards per attempt on those targets. But again, we're talking like this is almost the smallest sample size you can have. It's 2 games.
Yeah, that's very true.
So I think it's okay. I think with him being the wide receiver 1 there, his floor is pretty high and talented receiver.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with it there. 4th round, sure.
Yeah, not bad value at all. Even though I'm not a huge Pittman truther, I'd probably take him there. Rashad White did go off the board right after you, so that
Thank
took
goodness.
that out of Mike's pressure. And then Trey McBride, which might be upsetting to Mike, is upsetting to me, but I didn't expect to get him. And Malik Neighbors right before your pick, so you're back on the clock, Mike.
Yeah, the Trey McBride, he would have been my selection here. I'm kind of battling. Like I still love Mark Andrews here, but oh man, I like Mark Andrews in this round. I do like the risk reward of Anthony Richardson in the 5th. I don't want to go double onesie position though, so I would have to kind of choose which one. I'm going to take Mark Andrews. George Kittle is super appealing multiple rounds later.
Yeah.
And the guy just keeps producing, man.
He does.
Keeps producing. Oh, I started a tight end run, though.
You did.
Yeah.
And you got the late 4th value that John was talking about earlier on Mark Andrews, so that's pretty sweet. Right after you, Dalton Kincaid, CJ Stroud, Kyle Pitts, which is upsetting to me because I really would have liked to get him, and then Zay Flowers right before you. So you started, that's 4 tight ends in the last 6 picks, and it's back to you.
So looking at the board now, the running backs who are available, Joe Mixon is the highest ADP. Where are you guys at? Because I'm so, I guess the 5th is fine, but generally where I've seen the ADP of Joe Mixon, I'm not appealed by that at all. I've brought up it is a chicken or egg situation, of course, but like last year, CJ Stroud was not a guy who looked to check it down. He would keep the play alive, and he'd look for his buddies Nico Collins and Tank Dell. He'd rather find them down the field, and maybe that was, well, he just doesn't like checking the ball down to Devin Singletary. Kind of, I mean, like Cam Newton didn't check down, gets Christian McCaffrey, he checks down. So where are you at with Joe Mixon's receptions? Do you think he's going to get enough to overcome being inefficient, or is he a bust? Is he a value? Where are you guys at?
Well, for me, I have him at RB17. I have him for about 30 catches. So not a lot. I don't know.
I have him at RB17. That's fun.
Yeah. I think he's a compiler. He's a volume guy. He's like Rashad White. He's going to see a lot of touches. He hasn't been very efficient in a while.
Forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he had some good seasons, but I mean, he's well off his peak efficiency for sure. So, he's just sort of a guy you might take as an RB2. In the 5th round's fine.
Yeah, that's he's fine. It's not exciting.
This feels like the right spot to settle for him, but he's not exciting.
And if I'd rather have Kamara over him, but I'm going to take Kenneth Walker, who to me, Kenneth Walker feels like he's being overlooked. Like it wasn't a great year, especially from what we were expecting, but it still was overall what I thought a pretty good year. Yeah. With the offensive coordinator coming in, maybe they're going to pass a bit more, but they're still up there talking about we're going to try to be a run first team, and he can at least hit home runs every once in a while. And my long wait here at the running back position, I want to get an RB2 locked in.
Yeah, makes sense to me. And right after you went Joe Mixon and Alvin Kamara. So the running back run has started. We'll see how long it lasts. Also, Anthony Richardson did go in there. And John, it's back to you on the clock in the 5th.
Yeah, I have it Walker, Kamara, Mixon at 15, 16, 17. So I have it in that order, except they Mixon went ahead of Kamara. I was actually thinking about Kamara here. So with that said, I think I'm going to go with Mike's wide receiver 13, Tank Dell.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Like I think
It's crazy.
Him in the 5th round. I'm pretty pleased with that. His splits with Nico almost the same.
Yeah, I think Tank Dell is an awesome player, and we bring up a lot of the way that CJ Stroud talks about Tank Dell. I mean, like these things do matter. Like the actual human relationships matter because you build up trust and you look for guys, and then if you believe in that player, there's some times where you're like, I shouldn't throw this ball, but but that's Tank Dell. I believe that he's going to make sure he gets it. So the two of those guys, I am very excited for. The value of me taking Nico in the 2nd and then you getting Tank Dell here is upsetting.
By my count, TBD how accurate it is, he went as a wide receiver 26 in this draft. So that's double Mike's ranking, and I think even still good value for you, John.
Yeah, I have one spot higher. So
yeah, so there you go. And it kicked off this little mini run of wide receivers who are, I feel like this is the tier of guys that are technically going outside wide receiver 2 range, but basically are wide receiver 2s. And it was Tank, Amari Cooper, T. Higgins, and George Pickens, who I absolutely love. But I love that happened because I get the running back I've been eyeing for about 2 rounds now, hoping that he would be my RB2. I absolutely love James Conner this year.
Yeah,
and I am getting him all over the place. He has been good for multiple years in a row and is consistently overlooked. And now this offense is going to be better than it has been. And I think they're going to have to score more than they have been. He catches the ball. He scores touchdowns. Kyler Murray is going to be back. I could not love James Conner more. This is my favorite pick of the draft by far.
No disagreements.
After him at the turn went Keenan Allen and Aaron Jones. So it's back to me again. And there are 2 onesies staring me right in the face, George Kittle and Joe Burrow. However, the quarterback I would choose here would not even be Joe Burrow, and it would be a bit of a reach. So I think, you know what? I'm going to make the reach. Screw it. I don't come back for a long time. I have a very, very long wait, so there could end up being a run of quarterbacks here. And then that puts me outside the guys I really like as my QB1s. And I feel pretty confident about getting a tight end later in the draft that I really, really like. No
is it
spoilers.
Kyler?
The quarterback I'm taking here is Kyler, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So, okay. I just realized I've drafted the entire Cardinals offense.
Yeah.
So they'd really better be good. I have Marvin Harrison, James Conner, and Kyler Murray. But hey, I have the stack. And I have all the touchdowns, basically. I don't actually hate this at all. I believe it was John who mentioned earlier their defense is not going to be very good, so they're going to have to put up points. This is a strategy. I don't hate it.
I think you should have taken Trey McBride instead of Metcalf.
Yeah, you got a super duper stack.
Quad
Apparently
stack.
So. Yeah, I would have had literally every offensive point. But I like this. We'll see what happens. Or we won't because this isn't a real draft, but I'll remember it. After me went George Kittle, Christian Kirk, and David Montgomery. And it is back to you, John, with 3 receivers, a tight end, and a running back so far on your squad.
Yeah, this is a little tricky because this is, you get into your league settings and we've got 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and 1 flex. I'm used to playing, 3 receivers plus a flex. Trying to get that 4th receiver maybe before the 2nd running back is what I usually like to do. But I do. There is a running back here that, there's one that I like. Actually, there's 2 that I like, and I think one of them might still be there on the way back. So I'm going to go with DeAndre Swift for the Bears. Talented player.
Good. Talk me into DeAndre Swift because I feel like I cannot be further out.
Okay, well, they gave him the good contract, right?
They did,
it was
pretty
solid.
Money talks.
Took him from Philly.
3rd team in 3 years.
Yeah, he ran well last year for Philly. Just didn't get the touchdowns because of the tush push, brotherly shove,
Got to the
whatever.
1 yard line like 18 times, and then
They're not
Jalen Hurts
gonna
killed it.
do that with Caleb Williams. Good pass catcher as well. Khalil Herbert's a pretty good number 2. Roshan Johnson's there as well. Might be the number 2. I don't know, but I just think this whole offense is going to be a lot better with Caleb Williams there. They've got 3 good receivers, so a lot of pressure off of Swift to try to find running lanes. He should be effective in his touches.
That's my hard part is it's the 3 what I won't call Rome an elite wide receiver, but an elite wide receiver prospect with 2 true number 1s. It's like, I mean, how much is left? And Caleb runs more than people realize. Like, he won't be a 600-yard guy, but if Caleb Williams has 300 rushing yards, I won't be surprised. I mean, so is there enough targets there for DeAndre Swift?
Cole Kmet also catches footballs.
Yeah, Cole Kmet. Yeah. Oh man, poor Cole Kmet. I mean, he got paid, but you know what I mean. Like, you want to produce, and
yes, you do.
It seems like we're always set up like, oh, Cole Kmet, and then something happens in the offseason. You go, well, maybe next year.
Yeah. I like the Swift pick here. I don't think he has, like, there's a lot of guys in this range that could be RB1s, and I feel like maybe Swift is not one of those guys, but that he can be a reliable RB2 or flex. So I like
that. And I think, looking at the guys on the board, Ramondre Stevenson, Najee Harris, Raheem Mostert, Tony Pollard, Jonathan Brooks.
Zamir White was there. He's gone now.
Yeah. Most of these guys are in timeshares as well. I do think Swift is the clear lead back, and he did have 268 touches last year, 1,263 total yards, 6 touchdowns, and he didn't start the season as the starter. If you remember, we had Kenneth Gainwell. Kenneth Gainwell is the RB1 there, week 1, but quickly took over and had a good season.
After you, another Bear in Rome Odunze, and then Zamir White, who I'm very curious about because I feel like everyone in the industry either hates or loves him at the value he's going at. And then Joe Burrow. So the quarterback pool is drying up a bit, but, it's quarterback. There's a lot of guys. Mike, it is back to you on the clock in the 6th round.
Yeah, speaking of quarterback, just looking, Dak, Jordan Love, Caleb Williams is off. He's probably not on my board. Brock Purdy, Tua, Goff. There's still so many guys who are all just really clumped together. So I'm not going to do that because I don't think even though Dak did what he did at the end of last year, I don't know that I'm confident he'll be able to reach that again. He'll be good. He'll be a QB1, but winning people championships, not sure about that. I'm going to go this guy, the ADP hasn't quite adjusted yet because of the injury to his teammate. But I will take the man who also got the bag. I will take Calvin Ridley and just really hope that Will Levis, who we call Bananarama, we hope that he can do something of note and that all the money is worth it for the Titans.
I mean, listen, there are maybe a few things that Will Levis can do of note, but one of them is chuck the ball downfield.
Yes, with blatant disregard for anything.
Yes. And interceptions do not matter to Calvin Ridley, so that's totally fine. I love the pick. I really like Calvin Ridley this year. After him went Terry McLaurin, Ramondre, and Chris Godwin on the turn, who I also like, and then Dak Prescott. So it is back to you again, Mike.
All right, and let's see. I'm going to take a peek at the wide receivers. So Jaden Reed, man, I have a really, really hard time with the Packers wide receivers because I feel like Jaden Reed, ADP-wise, he's their number 1. We know that, generally speaking, the ADP of whoever the wide receiver 1 is, that usually ends up being the right pick at the end of the year. But will it be enough versus Dobbs, Watson, and Wicks? Which I guess the last Wicks blurb was surprising from training camp of like that he wasn't getting a ton of snaps with Jordan Love, and that was surprising. But Jaden Reed, can he make a leap to being a top 12 guy? And I don't see that in the range of outcomes. I think he'll be a really strong wide receiver too, but I'm still trying to get guys who I think can make that climb up there. So I'm going to go over to the running back position. I know I have Tyreek. I mean, I guess I'm following Matt's lead here of let's take running
Let's
backs
go.
when we already have the wide receivers. Guys, Raheem Mostert was the RB2 last year. I mean, I get Devon Achane is probably the lead back of the timeshare, but will it really? Are we so confident that it's going to swing that far over to Achane and Mostert as an afterthought? I'm not. So I'm in the 7th. I think that's outrageous value. What's going on with Mostert?
Yeah, I 100% agree.
I mentioned I was looking at 2 running backs, and I thought Mostert might make it back to me in the 2nd. So you sniped me. Yeah, I agree.
You
completely.
forgot you were drafting against the second most accurate.
Yeah, we got him. We got Mostert in our main event league as well. Pretty excited about that. No, I think I'm high on Achane, but I'm also high on Mostert. I just think the whole offense is in the running game, especially, is going to be great. As long as Mostert stays healthy. He is a little old, and
he is.
Last two seasons he stayed relatively healthy compared to the previous few. He should absolutely smash this ADP.
Love it.
So it's
you
my
were back
turn.
on the clock, sir. Yeah, Jaden Reed, Jordan Addison, and Rashee Rice went after Mostert.
And I'm actually happy you took Mostert because it makes this pick a little bit easier because he was, kind of sticking his head up at the running back position, and I'm looking at the receiver position, and there's one guy that I like a lot, Deontay Johnson for the Panthers. Just a boatload of targets available there. We've got probably improved quarterback play, I'm hoping, with Dave Canales in there. Quarterback whisperer, got great seasons out of Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield. They also spent a lot of money on their offensive line. In my offensive line spending article, they were number 1. They spent the most in one offseason on the offensive line that I've seen since I started tracking the numbers in 2019. So should be a much improved unit and a much improved offense.
Do you, and I apologize if I'm catching you off guard if you don't know, is that just raw totals, or is that salary cap percentage, or is it just millions?
It's the net, it's millions. It's the net millions in versus net subtracting net millions out. So they're like 32 or 33 million or something net in this year. The most I've seen since 2019.
Okay.
Sweet. Love the pick. After that went Najee Harris, Evan Ingram, and Tony Pollard. Then I was up on the clock and went ahead and snagged Brian Thomas while the contract or the money discussion was happening. With Harrison, Kupp, and Metcalf as my top 3 wide receivers, I'm just looking for guys at this point who I don't need to start, but who could end up being absolute breakout studs. I really like Brian Thomas. I think his talent is there. I think that the opportunity is there. And the quarterback play should be there-ish enough.
It's good enough.
It's good enough. So I feel good about that. I did note before making that pick that along with my Cardinals, I also have Cooper Kupp and DK Metcalf. So almost my entire team is in the NFC West. But now I have Brian Thomas. So I've pivoted. And then Brock Bowers, who was one of the tight ends I was considering, I still don't have mine, went at the turn along with Xavier Worthy. Fortunately, the guy I'm still going to get later and feel confident in getting is well and clearly on the board. So that brings it back to me with 2 running backs and 4 wide receivers. My quarterback taken, no tight end, but the value guy I'm going to look for later still available. I'm going to hit the running back position here. It's really tough for me between 2 guys, Jonathan Brooks and Javonte Williams, both of whom have had recent knee injuries. I have been getting both of these guys all over the place.
One of them's a lot more recent. Does the latest report of he's out till probably week 4, that doesn't scare you off?
Yeah. Well, no, it actually is enough to scare me off.
Okay.
I have a lot of him, especially in Dynasty. These are the 2 guys I'm looking at here, but because of that recent report, primarily, really, and the way that they were talking about it sounds like, yeah, we're hoping to get him back by week 4, and we'll probably be bringing him along slowly even at that point. So I think he's going to be a late year stud, but I don't feel confident enough drafting him here as my RB3. So I'm going to take Javonte Williams instead, who is year 2 off the ACL, has been very talented, got a ton of opportunity last year with the same guys that people seem to want to talk about taking his job this offseason. I don't know why. And despite being inefficient last year, coming off that ACL injury, we had Matthew Betts on from the Ballers a few weeks ago, and he talked about how much better players, especially running backs, are in year 2 off the ACL. So I really like Javonte here and love him as my RB3. After that, Lad McConkey, Jordan Love, yet another quarterback, and Hollywood Brown brings it back to you, John, at the 8.
I was thinking about taking Jordan Love here, getting my quarterback locked up. Not a homer pick at all. Just on that Jonathan Brooks discussion, that makes Jonathan Brooks versus Nick Chubb kind of interesting as well.
It could, yeah,
because they're both probably going to be late season warriors for you. So given let's see here, we got everybody picking after me except for Mike has a quarterback. I don't know if these mocks are going to double up on quarterback. You never know.
They will eventually.
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a really talented running back. He's in a timeshare, but the offense is going to be very run heavy. He does have a donkey calling plays for him, but Jaylen Warren is excellent at football.
Yes, he is.
So I think he will, if anything's going to happen, maybe he's more the thorn in the side of Najee managers as opposed to the vice versa. So I'm going to grab Warren as my RB3 there.
I love that I can go on any fantasy show out there, and we all have very different opinions on tons and tons of things, strategies, players, but we all are united in our disdain for Arthur Smith. It's beautiful.
So true. Very true. After Jaylen Warren went Brooks, and then Zach Moss and DeAndre Hopkins. So it's back to you, Mike.
All right. Like Matt said, I'm looking for upside at the wide receiver position because I got Tyreek, Nico, and Calvin Ridley. Feel pretty good that those guys can just be locked in there. And then I will take Christian Watson, who I mean, I talked about Jaden Reed. If I don't know if the upside is there. It's there for Watson. And when everybody was actually healthy, at least last year, Christian Watson was getting the target share. And I don't know if his hamstring is fixed. One big hamstring, one little hamstring. I don't know. But to get him in the 8th for what he can do, he can actually be a top 12 guy. And so let's chase some upside here.
Yeah, I love that. He's exactly the kind of guy that I'm looking for in this range who it's volatile because we don't know who's getting the targets or if he'll be healthy. But if he's healthy and gets the targets, absolute wide receiver 1 upside. I like that a lot. Nick Chubb, the other guy we were talking about, went right after him. Then Austin Eckler, Keon Coleman, the first of the Bills, and JSN out there in Seattle. It's back to you, Mike.
I was really hoping JSN was going to fall to me. I thought I was going to get both Watson and JSN there, and that would have just been a spectacular upside turn. All right, let me look at the wide receivers here. Jameson Williams is at the top. Yeah, I mean, do you guys believe?
No.
That was quick.
Dan Campbell believes. He seems to believe. Man on a mission.
He said a lot
he believes
of
in everybody.
To us about Jameson Williams over the years, including the gem earlier in the offseason that he was pushing to be a starter. The sound bites on Jameson Williams have been just absolute entertainment.
Fantastic. I don't know. Former top 10 pick, can fly like the wind.
Very true.
Run like the wind. I don't think he'll see enough targets as the 4th option in that offense.
At best.
So he's a better in best ball guy for me.
Yeah. In the 9th, I think it's okay. The value is okay. Let me just do so I got 4 wide receivers. I got 3 running backs. So let me peruse the running backs real quick. Singletary's at the top. I don't mind him. I think that he will be a volume stud. I think the team will stink, but I don't care. I think that I've made the case on the fantasy footballers that Devin Singletary might be better for the New York Giants than Saquon Barkley, which sounds like absolute hearsay.
Ooh.
But hear me out.
Hold on.
I'm not saying he's more talented than Saquon Barkley, But Saquon, when you give him the ball and he's on that team, he in his brain is saying, if I don't do something and win this game for my team, we're going to lose.
Yeah.
And you saw that all the time. It very boom bust for Saquon. It's, I mean, absolutely stuffed or loses yards, or he rips off a huge run. Where Devin Singletary for Buffalo, for Houston, he takes what is there and he just chunks off 4 to 5 yards at a time. And sometimes that a football team, that's what you actually need, is if the faith is in Daniel Jones in the passing attack, if you have a running back that he's not going to ad lib and try and hit home runs all the time. I'm just saying it could actually be better for your team. As weird as it is with the imbalance of raw athletic talent between the two guys. So I don't mind him there. I got a long wait. I'm going to go. It's my RB4. So let's pretend everything goes right. Let's pretend everything goes right for Gus Edwards, who, okay, that sound means I'm onto something good here for the Chargers. The highest of T, Harbaugh, G-Row, a bumfoot Justin Herbert. It's gonna be third and long, and they're gonna be running the ball, and all touchdowns will go to Gus Edwards. With J.K. Dobbins and the Achilles, I will bet against the Achilles. I love Dobbins. It made me legitimately emotionally upset when he went down week 1 because he was one of my guys last year. But I have to bet against him. I will bet against any running back who tears their Achilles the following year.
Yep. Yeah, that's 100% valid. Gus Edwards was going to be my pick if he was still there. Hence the noises of disconcertion. Right after Gus went Jake Ferguson and David Njoku. The tight ends are drying up, but my guy's still there.
Your value's still there. Okay, I thought it might be Jake.
No, I do like Jake Ferguson a lot, actually. He is one of my values, but I'm okay missing out on him with another guy still there. And then Trey Benson before you, John. So you are up in the 9th.
Yeah, Team Ford playing bully at tight end. I mean,
true.
No, Ferguson is the last tight end one that I would be comfortable with running solo into the season with, and I don't include Bowers in that group. So that's a really good value in
nice. I don't include Bowers in that group either.
So it's time for me, I think, to grab my quarterback. I like Jaden Daniels rushing upside.
Oh, you snake!
My rookie quarterback model predicts him for about 44 yards rushing per game, which is maybe the 3rd or 4th highest of the 50-some, 60-some quarterbacks in the sample. So he's got a huge rushing floor, and according to Derek Klassen of Reception Perception, was the most accurate passer of this rookie quarterback class as well. And Derek Klassen was the one that identified C.J. Stroud as the most accurate passer of last year's quarterback class. Okay. So I'm happy to take Daniels there.
I'm not happy you did that.
Yeah. That is, in my opinion, the last great QB1 pick, and the value on it here was pretty nice. So I think that might be the pick of the draft, at least for John's team. After that, Caleb Williams, Tyjae Spears, who probably would have been my pick here since Gus Edwards went earlier in this round. I was looking at the two of them in my queue, so that's disappointing. And then Brian Robinson, the pick before me. So that kind of dries up the running back group that I was looking at, which means I think I'm going to have to pivot to wide receiver, which means I have to make the impossible choice between the Bills guys here. I could go Jameson Williams, as previously mentioned by Mike, but I don't believe in him. I could go Romeo Doubs, who I don't mind here. But I don't think Doubs has that wide receiver 1 upside, not even on his own team, probably. I do think that one of these Bills guys, the ones left, Keon Coleman went a couple rounds ago, I believe, could end up being the wide receiver 1 on this team, which for Josh Allen is pretty nice. It's Curtis Samuel and Khalil Shakir, and I'm going to go with Curtis Samuel here. I've been kind of mixing it up between the two because I honestly don't know if anyone knows, but it'll be Curtis Samuel for me before the turn. Lock up one of those Bills wideouts. Dallas Goedert and Adonai Mitchell went on the turn. Now it's back to me.
Matt, are we going to call this after 10 rounds? It's been an hour. So is this the final round?
Call it after 10 rounds. Yeah, we'll make this the last pick, the last picks of the draft. Which means I get to pick my tight end here. I was going to do it anyways because I didn't want to risk someone taking him with a second tight end somewhere in this draft. It is Pat Freiermuth.
Okay.
I've talked about it before on this podcast. The one thing that we all agree on in fantasy is that we hate Arthur Smith. But the one other thing that Arthur Smith does is target the tight ends. Most in the league last year, 34% of their targets in Atlanta went to the tight end position. Top 4 in every year that he was the head coach there. He ought a huge quarterback upgrade with Russell Wilson, or even if it's Fields, I feel great about it. And he was good last year, was Pat Freiermuth, and has been good when he's seen even mildly decent quarterback play once before, which was the last season of Ben Roethlisberger. So this might be the best passes he's ever going to see in his young career so far. I think he's good, and I think he's going to get a lot of targets. I'm more than happy ending up with him as my tight end 1. After that went Devin Singletary, Zeke, and finally Jameson Williams, bringing it back to you for your last pick, John.
I was thinking you were maybe going to take Jonnu Smith there, which would have been really early. He's my favorite tight end too.
He is your favorite.
Yes.
Or
for
Taysom
Miami.
Hill would also have been an option.
Taysom Hill would have been
I'll
an
throw that out
option.
there.
In sleeper, right? He's a
Yeah.
yes, he's
a tight end here.
Tight end eligible in sleeper. And I was actually going to take Curtis Samuel with my last pick. I had a whole speech planned. I do not
hope it was better than Matt's.
Yeah, Khalil, it was. Khalil Shakir is not doing it for me. So I think I'm going to take up and coming receiver here for the Saints as my last receiver, Rashid Shaheed.
Yep. He was also in my queue. It was one of the Bills or Shaheed, so I love that. We both took him in the Scott Fish Bowl. Mike, are you in the Scott Fish Bowl?
I am.
Okay, we might have to get your favorite pick from that after you make this last pick of your draft here. Brock Purdy, Cortland Sutton, and Tua. So a couple more of the quarterback ones, meaning you are down to I don't know what, but this is the last pick of your draft. So who are you taking?
We are A-okay here, boys. And I would say since it's the last pick, I'll just kind of lay it out. Normally, a computer is not, or a human is not taking Tua after they took Joe Burrow a few rounds ago. It's something an idea, and I think I heard it from JJ of just that it's gotten into the back of my head, and I've gotten more and more comfortable with it. Is if you are going to go late round quarterback, be okay with taking 2 of them and just seeing how it shakes out. And the 2 I was going to take, I mean, it's Tua, who led the league in passing last year, and then Jared Goff, who was second in the league in passing. And so I'm going to take Jared Goff right here. And just as a reminder, Jared Goff's opening schedule: at home against the Rams, at home against the Bucks, on the road against the Cardinals, at home against the Seahawks. Like, this is a absolutely delightful, a tasty opener for Jared Goff. And when I'm taking a late round QB, of course I hope that guy turns into a plug-and-play starter that I don't have to worry about. But more that I'm looking at is, what's the opening schedule for this guy? Can I get through a few weeks and then figure it out? And Jared Goff, I think, is a great ripcord that will bail you out, and he can get you a few weeks while you try to figure it out. And maybe it's Jared Goff. Like, maybe the Lions, it's their magic year for offense, and Goff is just a weekly starter for you.
I like it. You can always stream a guy when he's playing on the road if you have to, because good gracious, is he better at home?
Yeah.
I was going to piggyback on that. It's going to be part of my draft day strategy article. It's called the Jared Goff Gambit, and it's just basically starting him at home.
I'm sorry, John. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, you're excited. I understand.
He plays so many games, like in domes. So like even when it's road Goff in a dome.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd be comfortable starting him at Cardinals, or at Rams or at Chargers as well. And then just finding another quarterback to either stream or a QB2 that you have on your roster that can start in those road games that he's outdoors or has tough matchups. But he averages 21.7 or 21.3 fantasy points per game at home, 13.9 per game on the road. And I also wanted to comment on your being okay taking 2. The other thing I've noticed in drafts, and there are some inexperienced fantasy owners who will take 2 quarterbacks. before really shoring up their running back, wide receiver positions more that like they should. But usually experienced people don't. So if you are targeting somebody like the QB 14, you can actually wait a round or two longer if 11 other teams have their quarterback, because it's unlikely that they're going to go grab Goff as their backup quarterback over some of these, receivers or running backs or tight ends here that are available as depth for their roster. So you can even grab him. I mean, 10th is obviously pretty late. So Mike's adding Goff to a roster that's got 9 really talented players already on it, and he's getting a guy who plays at an elite QB1 level at home. He's just got to figure out the outdoor road games. So I like the pick a lot.
Yeah, same. All right. Speaking of those 9 talented players, Mike, give us your roster and your takeaway here.
So my running backs are Pacheco, Kenneth Walker, Raheem Mostert, Gus Edwards, wide receiver Tyreek, Nico, Calvin Ridley, Christian Watson, and then Mark Andrews. So I got at least one stud at a onesie position. Then Jared Goff is my current quarterback.
Like it. John?
Breece Hall at 1-7, Sam Laporta in the second, Brandon Ayuk in the third, Michael Pittman, Tank Dell in the 4th and 5th, DeAndre Swift is my RB2 in the 6th, Deontay Johnson, always open, in the 7th, Jalen Warren in the 8th is my RB3. Waited till the 9th to get my quarterback, Jaden Daniels, for that rushing floor, but also a good thrower of the football. And then Rashid Shaheed as my wide receiver 5 in the 10th round.
Man, I feel like these might be my 3 favorite teams of the draft. Maybe that's because we're smart.
You're just saying that.
It could be. I have as my running backs Saquon Barkley, James Conner, and Javonte Williams. I'll probably need to hit a couple more backups in the later rounds just to feel safe with my depth.
Jerome Ford's there.
That's very
Jerome
true,
Ford.
and more than good enough. Fortunately, to make up for the depth at running back, I've got Marvin Harrison, Cooper Kupp, DK Metcalf as my wide receivers 1, 2, and 3, and then Brian Thomas and Curtis Samuel. Be more than happy throwing those guys in to the flex or the wide receiver 2 slot in bye weeks, and I think both of them have breakout potential. Quarterback is Kyler Murray, completing my triple Cardinals stack. I absolutely love Kyler Murray. Is probably actually my number 1 favorite player in fantasy football for 2024. Just between value, expectation, everything. I absolutely love him. And then
I'm in
Pat
100%
Freiermuth.
agreement with that, by the way.
Let's go. That's not a spoiler.
It hasn't been. He's talked about a lot on our show, but the official stamp of approval is coming up later.
Okay, let's go. And then Pat Freiermuth to close it out. I'm more than happy, as I said, having him as my tight end 1. So hopefully he carries this roster in the imaginary season that is to follow. All righty. Well, thanks a ton for coming on, Mike. It was great to have you. Fun draft. Close us out with, once again, where the listeners can find you and your stuff and everything the Ballers are doing.
Certainly. TheFantasyFootballers.com. That's the hub. You can find anything there. And then on socials, Instagram, the Twitter, recently Twitch, you can find me at FF Hitman.
I think you're in the Fortnite streets. Is that correct?
I am. I've been streaming with my boy and having a really good time.
Awesome stuff. All right. John, any closing thoughts, parting words?
Just look for a draft day strategy on Wednesday. It's my goal this week, is to get that beast out by the time I leave for a quick trip home to Wisconsin for a basketball reunion and some other things. So look for that on Wednesday.
It's a great name.
Awesome. Yeah. Cool. All righty. Thanks, everybody, for coming on. We'll see you next time. Adios.